Hi there, this is Laura Dovalo from the blog Bagatelas de Papel with my very first card tutorial in English. I made this triple interactive birthday card for my nephew Nico, and I'm also participating in the My Favorite Things 2017 Card Design Superstar Challenge with it. The first interactive feature is a slider mechanism with a sentiment and a rotating element, which makes the dino's mouth open, revealing a present. The expression on the dragon's face cracks me up. The second mechanism is a rotating disc. When you turn it, 3 fun little fairy tale characters can be seen through the window. I actually used the door from the castle Die-namics set to make the opening big enough for the characters. The third and final interactive feature is a different kind of pull tab. When you pull it, instead of revealing a hidden message, a tower with more fun characters appear. Nico loves cows, so I just had to include one in his card. Okay, let's get to work. I used the largest die from the Stitch Circle Scallop Frames Die-namics to cut the disc. Usually only the frame is used and the inside piece is thrown away, but it's perfect for interactive card making. You could also use a circle with a pinked or scallop edge. I die cut the window and the castle border from a piece of grey cardstock and attached the disc to my card panel with a brad to be able to trace the shape of the window onto my white disc. I was lucky enough to fit 3 whole windows on it. Then I used a Misty and some black My Favorite Things hybrid ink to stamp the characters. Next, I used the tower top die from the Die-namics castle set to cut a windowsill and stacked 4 layers of the die cuts to hide the brad. As you can see, I cut 3 of the tower tops into 3 pieces, discarding the piece in the middle, and attached them to the 4th tower top. The following step, which I did off camera, was to apply thin foam adhesive to the back of the panel, making sure that the disc could rotate freely before attaching it to the castle-shaped panel. Okay, our first mechanism is ready. Let's move on to the second one, a slider with a rotating element. I saw this mechanism in a funny interactive Martha Stewart card of a peeing dog years ago and decided to make my own version. Luckily, the T-Rex stamp from the Your Roarsome set was big enough for my idea. I stamped him twice on heavyweight white cardstock and fussy cut both pieces, but only used the upper part of the head of one of them. I'm sure you all know that a stamped fussy cut image looks a lot better if the borders are traced with a black marker. I just carefully held the tip to some spots that were harder to reach. I placed all of the elements on my panel and punched a hole to mark the position of the dino's head. Then I took a tiny circle die and attached it to my panel with micropore tape before running it through my big shot. You can always use your imagination or your scissors if you don't have the perfect die to cut one of the elements, like I did here with the rope die for the hill. The small band-aid from the Die-namics Band-Aids set was perfect for the mechanism. I traced it 4 times on some heavyweight cardstock and glued 2 and 2 together for strength. I then traced a circle on the end of one of the ovals and used a craft knife to cut the cone shapes. I made a little diagram so you could see it better. I die cut the tab from the retired Blueprints 15 die set with double-sided tape on the back, stamped it and attached it to the sliding panel. I glued another tab on the back to give it more strength. Here's a crafty little tip for you. If I had attached the dragon directly to the panel, you would have probably noticed a slight bump in the middle of it. To avoid this, I used the same green cardstock to raise the upper half of the dragon. It's like cheap dimensional adhesive. It's time to glue down everything, the dino in its place and the interactive panel to the backing. Take your time and make sure that everything lines up. Now I am adhering the T-Rex head to the circle tabs, which already have some thin foam adhesive on them. I can finally attach the body in its place. I forgot to tell you that before fussy cutting it, I backed it with some stick-it double-sided adhesive, so it's really easy to do so. But first I have to cut a slight curve to make it fit under the upper jaw. Yay, it's looking good! The final step is to stamp and fussy cut the present that will go in the dino's mouth. I used a piece of paper from the 6x6 Itsy Bitsy Polka Dots pack and colored the bow and shadows with Copic markers. I struggled a bit off and on camera to make the present fit perfectly and had to cut some slivers of the sides, but the result is worth it. It's such a fun surprise element. I noticed that one layer of the castle border wasn't sturdy enough, so I die cut and stacked a couple of strips. It's also a decorative feature. Now it's just a matter of adding some texture and color to make the castle come alive. Now onto the last mechanism. I've already prepared the tower by gluing one of the towers from the Die-namics castle set to a strip of 1 inch by 5.5 inches white heavyweight cardstock, on which I stamped the cute bird. The wider tower with the funny cow measures 1 11/16 of an inch by 3.5 inches. The last details were some paper piecing on the balloons, and then I added some highlights with a white gel pen and also some glossy accents to the cow's muzzle. I decided to hide the tower more, so I carefully peeled off the strip of double-sided tape and attached it lower on the back of the card panel. Next, I took a cellophane strip, attached one end to the sliding tower and the other end to the wide strip of double-sided tape on the back of my card panel. It's important to get it as straight as possible so that the sliding mechanism works well. I then added strips of foam adhesive to the back of the panel without realizing that my card base was narrower than the base of the tower. But I just gently peeled off the extra strips, and no harm, no foul. Here I'm attaching the panel to my card base. I edited out my big head, so I only got the end of the process on tape. But you get the idea, don't you? Now my card is ready. A triple interactive card that also stands on its own. It's not really that thick, about 2/8 of an inch, like a shaker card. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time.